first book, and everybody was asking how long did it take me to write the book. And I hate answering this question because it really didn't take me long. It really only took me 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks to write the book. I was still going through Degreed and Homeless. I was still in the bad space. And I was back home in Memphis. I was staying with my oldest sister. And not ironically, crazy enough, I was sleeping in a laundry closet. The house was packed. I had moved in with her and her family, and the apartment was full. I had nowhere to go. I was living out my car. I ended up losing my car. So I groveled back home to Memphis and asked could I stay with them. And long story short, I was sleeping in a laundry closet. And day after day, for 2 weeks, I would write the experience that I went through in Dallas and in the Army and during college. I just wrote in my iPad. I didn't write with a pen. I typed it in my iPad, and I just let everything out. I didn't let anything hold me back, so I just wrote everything out, and it only took me 2 weeks. I went back through the book and I went back through and added my emotions. So all in all, I can say it took 2 to 3 weeks, a month I say a month just not to brag, but 2 weeks. Everybody asked me how and why and how was I able to write a whole book. And it's a weird question to say, how did you write a book? I don't know. But it's very time consuming writing a book. Editing the publishing process is very time consuming. And at the time that right before the book came out, I had moved to Rome, Georgia with my younger sister. She's my older sister, but she's my older sister. And I had just moved there with her, and I was at the end of Degreed and Homeless, and I was trying to get back on my feet and publish this and get my life back started. So I eventually ended up getting a job at Lowe's Home Improvement. I ended up getting a really good job, the best paying job I had ever had, and it was an easy job. It was a management job, and long story short, I grew complacent and I got fired. I got fired on 4/20. Crazy, right? I got fired on 4/20, and this was just when the pandemic had just broke out and COVID and everything. Well, COVID was pronounced as a pandemic, and I really wasn't keeping up with the pandemic. I was working every day. I was technically an essential worker, and I can't say just being irresponsible. I fell asleep on the job, and I was falling asleep on the job, and eventually it caught up with me, and I got fired. And I was thinking like, oh my God, I'm at the end of Degreed and Homeless, and I'm trying to get my life back started, and I just got fired. And I was just like, this can't be real. Like, what am I going to do? It's paying really, 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 really best paying job ever. And I'm just like, I've fucked up. So what am I gonna do at this point? But it was a blessing in disguise. And if it had not been for COVID, if it had not been for the pandemic, this book would have come out. When I got fired, I was able to collect unemployment. And if you were on unemployment, you know, they were giving out money. The government just throwing out cash to everybody. And I was one of the people reaping those benefits of that cash. I was one of the ones on unemployment. One of the ones on unemployment. And so the unemployment saved me because I was essentially making the same amount of money. So I was at home on my butt making really, really good money. And instead of blowing the money or wasting my time, I was like, hey, I have the time and now the money, because I had money saved up already from working. I now have the time and the money to put out this book. So I rushed everything, got the editor, got everything together. I made the cover. I compiled everything. I did a photo shoot. I just whipped everything together. I had the time to just whip everything together to make this book. And so I did. Lucky enough, me getting fired from my job was a blessing. And I don't call it a blessing because I was being very, very complacent, very stupid. Falling asleep on the job, that's stupid. Come on now. But all in all, it gave me the opportunity to have the time, the space to put this out. And I don't know what to say, thank God. And I kept going across dates and dates and dates and dates and dates. And I wanted to just put it out as soon as I can. And one significant date that was coming up was Juneteenth. And that's the celebration of basically Black Independence Day. And I just felt like that was a great day to showcase my independence in a sense. This was a way of showing who I am, what I'm worth, what I'm capable of. Because before this came out, I was out of sight, out of mind. I was in the Army. I had lost everything. Nobody knew, no friends or family knew what was going on with me. So I was out of sight, out of mind, and I went to school for mass communication. I want to be on TV. I want to be influential. I want to be a part of the masses, a personality, whatever. That's why I'm doing YouTube. So I want to be somebody. And at the time, I was a nobody. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew anything about me. And there was so much going on in my life that I just wrote everything down and put it in a book because I didn't want to constantly keep having this conversation. So I got it together. Nobody knew I was writing it. And right after Juneteenth, the weekend after Juneteenth, the same weekend as this weekend, Juneteenth weekend, that Monday, that Sunday night, I dropped my book. It was a surprise. It was a shocker to everyone. Nobody knew that I was writing a book, except for my best friend and my two best friends and my sister. No one knew that I had even thought about writing a book. So when I dropped everything on social media, the title, I just dropped it. It was available. It was no pre-sale. It was no nothing. I just, like Beyonce did when she dropped her album, I just dropped it. People bought it. Like that. They bought it. And it scared the heck out of me because it's so much of my personal life that's in here that I was ready for people to read, but I wasn't ready for people to read. And when people just were commenting, they got theirs. I'm like, oh my God, this is real. People are about to read my life and know what's in Degreed and Homeless. Because some of the reaction, people thought Degreed and Homeless was like a take on education of homeless in America. No one really thought it was a personal story. This is a personal story about my life, my struggle, my truth, my family, my secrets, my love life, my everything is in here. And dark times are in here. Very, very, very dark times are in here. And I let the world read it. I put it out for the world. And it was scary, really hard to finally come to the conclusion to let this go and put it out in the world because my whole life is in here. Then my family and friends react. Everybody was shocked. My dad, I mean, it was hard. The reactions were hard. Everybody, friends were excited, but family were scared. One by one, my family members got the book and they read my inner thoughts. They read my life, and it was exciting, but it was more somber and solemn because it's not a happy story. It's a very sad story. I wasn't able to do the typical book tour. I had to think of things and think of innovative ways to promote my book and to go on tour. So I got on Instagram Live. I did wacky stuff with promoting on Instagram and Facebook and everything else on my website. Quarantine was a really, 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 really big dent in my book. When COVID was announced, I was like, no, like, this is the wrong time to put this out. Nobody's gonna buy a book. But it essentially was the perfect time to buy a book. Everybody's at home, so when was a better time to buy this book? The book isn't that long. It's about, what is it? 160 pages, including special thanks. So I just want to address something that's in the book. And that's this page towards the end. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read it, if you haven't finished it. Spoiler alert, You've had plenty of time to read it by now. At the end, it says error 404. Did you catch any errors, typos, or general mistakes? Well, get over it. Life is full of mistakes. And I want to pick this out to talk about because a lot of people wanted to talk about the errors and the typos in the book. And my editor did an excellent job capturing the moment, the entire moment, and making sure the story flowed clear. Great editor, Max Abrams. But I decided to leave the typos and those little errors in there because my life isn't perfect. This is about my life. So why take out those errors and typos? Try to make a perfect book when I'm not perfect. And so I figured leaving it in there and put the message towards the end would say to the readers, hey, don't go through my life in this book with like a red pen, like it's some paper saying, hey, this is a mistake, this is a mistake, this is a mistake, this is a mistake. If there's too many mistakes in here for you to get this story, you need to read it again because you're too focused or hung up on those mistakes. And you probably hung up on your own mistakes in life. This isn't about the mistakes. It's about the story, about the book. Life is full of mistakes. Get over it. The reviews. 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. 5-star reviews everywhere. Man, friends, family, strangers. I got phone calls for 4 consecutive straight months of just people telling me how they related to my story, how brave I was for telling my truth, how courageous I was for telling my truth, whatever, like the whole 9. I just kept hearing great things about this book. I was ready for the critics. The only criticism I heard were about the typos, and so other than the typos, it's like I really put out a top-notch product, and I'm proud of myself for doing that, attention to it. But if you look at the top, it says published by Talk a Lot Media Company, and publishing this book was also doubling as a relaunch for my company. I founded Talk a Lot Production Company in college, and when I launched this, I decided to rename it to Talk a Lot Media Company, and I was able to get my business license and establish my company as a LLC, and this is our first product. And that's what's most important for me, is that I was able to relaunch my company and kick off my dream of owning my own media company. You got to stay tuned to know what Talk a Lot Media Company is about. I'm just in the beginning phases of unveiling everything. This book was the first thing, and it took my life into a tornado, into a whirlwind of things. And so I'm slowly but surely coming out with everything. The nonprofits. I decided to donate to Stop Soldier Suicide. $1 of every book sold is going to Stop Soldier Suicide. But along this incredible journey, I was able to connect with a former classmate that lives in Memphis, and her mom own Serving God's People, and they cater to serve homeless people. They serve at-risk homeless people. They serve veterans. They serve basically everything that I represent in this book. They serve in Memphis, in Memphis. So I decided to change the nonprofit, and now $1 of every book sold goes to Serving God's People. I raised over $200 to $300 for Stop Soldier Suicide, and for Serving God's People, we've already raised over $300 for them. I donate some of my personal money and also the proceeds. So I'm trying to do good with this. I wanted to help. I wanted to just make change. That was one of my goals, is to make a lot of change in people's lives, in the world, in my life, just change. This was just a big monumental thing for me. This was a big change for my life. It brought on a lot of attention. It brought on a lot of exposure for me and my company and my family. is a good thing and a bad thing. That's something I really don't want to talk about. Is just like how I exposed my family in this. I mentioned everybody in my life by name in this book, and not everybody was particularly happy about that. Not everybody was particularly happy about that. Not everybody, but only a few people that I went into detail with weren't happy that I mentioned him by name, particularly the guy that I was involved with in Dallas. It's hard for me to talk about what's in here because it's so personal, but I've never mentioned my sexual life, my personal life. I've never mentioned any of this at home. I don't talk about this with my friends, anybody, but I felt like this whole story, my life story, is a story to help people. Everyone from any walk of life can use their personal story, their experience, to help people. And so I decided to use my experience to help people. My time in the Army was particularly hard to mention because I battled with suicide. If you want to read the details, you have to get the book and read it, but I'm going to skim through some of the topics, and suicide was one of the hardest ones that I didn't want to put in here. And I put it in here because I know people, it's part of life, people deal with it. And it was a time where I thought I was going to take my own life, and it's foolish. So I put that story in here, and I worded to try to help somebody, to let them know that someone else goes through these type of things, and that people understand what they're going through, that they're not the only one. Because social media has created this world of everything's okay and everything's not okay. We always nothing's ever okay. And that I wanted to really just tell truth about real world truth. Family, love, sex, decisions, manifesting, everything is in here. It's just a life lesson book. Life as an author is surreal. Life as an author is weird. Life as an author is crazy. Life as an author, I never thought I'd write a book. I never thought I'd be an author. And when people, my friends and family, people have read the book, and they ask, when's the next one? When is the next one coming? Or they're like, hey, author, or whatever, hey, best-selling author, whatever they say, is weird because they're saying it about me. And I didn't think about being an author when I wrote this, when I put it out. I know this sounds dumb, but it didn't dawn on me that I would be an author of a book. I just didn't think about that. I just wrote it. Like, I didn't think about the whole thing about having a book. Once the book came out, the whole thing started dawning on me. Like, I wrote a book. Like, you published it. It's out. It's real. It's an actual thing. Everything was just, it dawned on me, and I was just like, what did I do? What did I do? I put out a book, like, about my life. It's crazy. It's still crazy to me that I have a actual book that's going to be left on this earth long before I'm gone, long after I'm gone. It's on shelves in Barnes and Noble. It's on Amazon. Anybody can buy it. It's sitting in people's homes. I'm walking into my friends and family's homes, and it's on the shelf. It's on the countertops. It's on the bed. Like, it's crazy. Life as an author is hectic because I put my life on display. I have a book about my life, and now all of these eyes are on me, and people feel like they know me now. They can say they know me because you really get me out of this. And it's weird because my life is on display, I'm on display, and I'm walking into my purpose of wanting to be on TV, wanting to be influential, wanting to be anything, wanting to be that somebody. I'm walking into that now. And it's scary. It's unreal. and it's uncomfortable. Some of the things that I even put in the book made my life uncomfortable with my family members, with my sisters, with my brothers, with my mom, with everybody. It's made it a little bit uncomfortable because they're reading my personal thoughts and what I think of them and when I think about life. My mom wasn't particularly happy that if you know anything about the Black community, what goes on at home stays at home. You don't talk about what goes on in the house outside the house. And that's the number one rule I broke, and talked about what went on in our home, in my childhood home. And my mom wasn't too happy about that. Some things about some other people, they weren't happy about that, but I chose to do it. And I've had to suffer the consequences. And it's really ate at me. The courage that I had to publish the first book. I don't have it with the second book. Really reconstructing myself on the inside, trying to understand and process this process, because becoming an author has completely changed me on the inside and out. And now I'm having to not reintroduce, but introduce myself to people, because I'm not the old Tamarcus. I'm not the guy that's in this book. I am not him. And I'm looking for parts of him, not to depress him, but the happy parts. It's just I'm a new being. I now know what it means to be born again because of this process, this journey I've gone through. I've heard so much about myself from people that have read this book. They've told me about me and what they see, their perspective for me and their perspective for reading this. And it's changed me. And I've understood who I am and the mistakes I've made. I don't want to make those mistakes anymore. So I'm a new being, and I can't get too much into it because I'll be start talking about my second book and how that has manifested. And speaking of manifestations, I manifested every goal that I set when I published this. I wanted to be on the news, on TV, get a news interview. I wanted to change one person's life. I want to sell at least 100 copies. And so many other things. I knocked everything out of the park, and I owe it all to God, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. And I really believe He wrote this, because when I finished my first time reading this, I was like, who wrote this? Who wrote this? Like, what, like, I didn't write this, and I really believe that God used me to write a story to help His people. It's crazy. My life's crazy now because I got a book, and I never thought that, I'd be living this life. It's just really weird. I don't know I can't just dive into what I want to talk about because I have so much more that I'm gonna put out, more videos and more content, and including my second book that's coming. Also, doing a competition. Comment below what you think the name of my second book is, and you'll be the winner of a $25 Nike gift card. Remember, comment below your thoughts comment below your guesses of my second book title, and you may be the winner of a $25 Nike gift card. I'm gonna draw the winner on to participate for the Nike gift card. If you go back and listen to what I'm talking about, the reaction from the first book is what caused the second book. I don't know if that helped with the title or whatever, but everything that went on, the book was so much about me. There was just nothing else this book was so much about me, there was nothing else left to write about in the second book. So maybe you can think of the title from there, I don't know. But the second book is here. I mean, it's not here, but I'm pretty much done with it. I'm compiling it. It's really gonna be big. I don't know what to say about it. It's gonna be bigger than this. It's not a sad book anymore. It's not gonna be a sad story. It's gonna be really fun.